For the longest time, I thought distance in marriage came from outside. From deadlines. From fatigue. From obligations that slowly devour your evenings and then your weekends and then, one day, your connection. I thought that's what was happening with us. We weren't angry. We weren't fighting. We were functioning. Kara was still Kara, capable, organized, polished. She still made the grocery lists, folded laundry with sharp corners, reminded me to lock the back door at night. But something inside her had turned inward. Not broken, just closed. Like a room with the light off and the door cracked just enough to let you wonder if it was ever meant to open again. She started spending more time at Jenna's place. Jenna was going through a divorce. According to Kara, it was ugly, emotional, one of those situations where you can't let your friend fall apart alone. I never knew Jenna well. We'd met a couple of times at gatherings. She seemed nice. A little intense, maybe, but I didn't question it. I believed Kara. And honestly, it made sense. She'd always been the type to hold someone else's crisis on her shoulders. The visits became more frequent. Weeknights. Whole weekends. At first, she'd text updates. Don't wait up. Jen is really struggling tonight. Then the texts got shorter. Staying here tonight. Sorry. Then they stopped altogether, and I stopped asking. We'd always had space in our marriage. The good kind. The kind where you don't have to explain every breath. But this was something else. This was her building a second routine without me in it. I told myself she was just being a good friend. That maybe I was the one being too needy, too fragile. So I adapted. I filled the quiet with distractions. Took longer walks. Cooked more. Paid attention to things she didn't notice, like how many hours passed between her texts, or how her voice stiffened when I asked how Jenna was doing. I couldn't quite explain the shift. It was like watching someone slowly repaint the walls of your home in a color you didn't choose, but never seeing them do it. Then came the smell. One night, around midnight, she came home saying Jenna had had an emotional collapse. Her eyes were glassy, but not red. Her mascara was perfect. Her hug was tight, like she needed to convince me of something without saying it out loud. But her shirt smelled like cologne, not mine, and not hers either. I froze. Not because I was sure, but because, in that second, I didn't believe her. And that terrified me more than the smell. Still, I didn't confront her. Instead, I asked if she was okay. She smiled. It's just been a long night. Then she turned, walked toward the bathroom, and shut the door. I stood there, staring at the place she had just been. Something inside me clicked, not loudly, not violently. Just a soft, unmistakable click, like a key turning in a lock I didn't know existed. From that moment, I started listening differently. I listened when she said, I might stay over again this weekend. Jenna's got a big court date. I listened to the way she never used contractions when she lied. I did not mean to stay so long. I listened to the pauses between her words. The way she looked down at her phone before answering. I didn't accuse. I didn't snoop. But something had shifted. I wasn't just living in my marriage anymore. I was observing it. I didn't want to believe Kara was lying to me. But the math stopped adding up. Jenna had become an invisible presence in our life, a name, a context, an alibi. She never came over. Never texted. Never called when Kara was home. It was like she only existed when Kara left. One night, I asked gently, how's Jenna holding up? Kara looked surprised. Caught. Then she smiled. She's, surviving. It's been rough. I nodded. You're a good friend. She leaned over, kissed my cheek, and said, I try. And in that moment, something in my chest whispered, you're being managed. That night, while Kara was asleep, I sat on the couch in the dark, trying to quiet the voice in my head. The one that kept repeating, something doesn't fit. Something's off. Look again. I picked up my phone. Scrolled to a contact I hadn't used in a long time, Josh, a friend who once helped me with a background check for a job applicant. All I wrote was, you still do private work? He replied within minutes. Always. What's up? I stared at the screen for a long time, then typed. I need to know where my wife really goes when she says she's helping a friend. I didn't expect answers immediately. I wasn't even sure I wanted them. When I messaged Josh, it was less about action and more about self-preservation, like touching a door you suspect is hot, just to confirm whether the burn is real. We met the next day in a parking lot near his office. He wore a windbreaker, sunglasses, and that same look he used to have back in college, half amused, half deadly serious. You want eyes on her? He asked. No tracking, no bugging, I said. Just tell me where she goes. He nodded, understanding exactly what I didn't say out loud. Give me a week. That week was strange. Kara seemed lighter, even affectionate at times, like someone who had already made a decision and was now free from pretending. She kissed me on the cheek again before heading out Friday night. Jenna's going through mediation tomorrow. I'll probably sleep over. I nodded, not asking a single thing. After she left, I sat in the silence of our home and listened to it breathe differently. A house feels different when someone's lying to you inside it. Even in their absence, the room seemed to hold the echo of the truth. 3 days later, Josh called. You busy? I stepped outside to take the call. She's not going to Jenna's, he said flatly. I didn't speak. She hasn't been going to Jenna's, Josh said, flipping through a few notes. I did a few drive-bys across 3 different nights, no sign of Kara's car anywhere near the house. Nothing unusual going on there either. Lights off by 10, same car in the driveway, same quiet pace. Whoever Jen is living with now, if anyone, it's not your wife. He looked at me, more serious. Also, I ran a background check. Jenna finalized her divorce 6 months ago. Her ex moved states. No drama, no ongoing legal issues. Her life stable. She's not in crisis, hasn't been for a while. A short pause. Then he added, so either your wife's helping someone else entirely, or she's using Jenna as a very convenient ghost. I leaned against the porch railing. Where's she going then? Josh paused. She spends most nights at a condo on Lenox Avenue. Same building. Same unit. 4th floor. Registered under Tyler Madsen. My stomach turned. That name. I hadn't heard it in a while, but I knew it. He wasn't a friend. But we crossed paths, company mixer, 2 years ago. He worked in marketing. Loud, charming in a performative way. The kind of guy who never asked questions, just waited for his turn to talk. Kara had introduced him once with a casual, oh, this is Tyler. He used to work with Jenna. Of course it had started there. Josh continued. She parks 2 blocks away. Walks in late. Leaves early. Same pattern. I've got photos. Timestamps. Want me to send them? No, I said. Not yet. I hung up. My hands were shaking. But not with rage. With precision. Because now, finally, I had a shape to the void. The story she'd built was cracking, and behind it wasn't just betrayal. It was intent. Planning. Secrecy dressed up as compassion. That night, she texted me. Exhausted. Mediation took forever. Miss you. I stared at the screen, then replied. Take all the time you need. She came home the next morning, kissed me on the forehead while I drank coffee, and told me how Jenna cried for hours. I looked at her and said, you're such a good friend. She smiled. You always say that. And she walked away. I used to think betrayal would come like a slap, sudden, loud, undeniable. But in reality, it trickles. A tone of voice. A too careful sentence. The wrong name dropped at the wrong moment. Once I knew about Tyler, everything else began to rearrange itself. Like how Kara stopped correcting me when I misremembered things, because she no longer cared if we remembered the same versions. Or how her phone, once always in the kitchen charging overnight, had migrated permanently to her nightstand, screen always face down. I became quiet, not to avoid confrontation, but to study. She didn't notice. When someone thinks they've already won, they stop checking their blind spots. I started noticing patterns. She came home on Sundays smelling of unfamiliar laundry detergent. Her texts, once filled with emojis and little I love yous, were now sterile. Informational. A logbook of nothing. She wasn't clumsy. That's what made it harder. Kara had a way of making her absence seem like presence. She'd leave me post-it notes, out early, groceries later, take out tonight? You pick. Smiley face, as if preemptively proving she was still here. But the warmth was gone. It read like customer service. So I did what I never thought I would. I looked up Tyler. No social media. Smart. But LinkedIn, there he was. Marketing consultant. Based in town. Currently on sabbatical for personal projects. No mutual connections. Except one. Jenna. I went back to Josh. Asked him to dig deeper phone records, if possible. He hesitated. I'm not trying to ruin her, I told him. I just want to know how long she's been living a second life in my house. He nodded. Then you'll need to hear this. He handed me a flash drive and a printed log of communications between Kara and Tyler. Some were brief, calls at odd hours, all routed through encrypted apps. A few flagged as VoIP, work calls. Others, more frequent than I expected. This isn't just an affair, Josh said. It's coordinated. Timed. He was right. Monday morning calls at 7 a.m. Friday check-ins at 5:40 p.m. A missed call always followed by a silent 3-day stretch where she was with Jenna. They had a rhythm, and it made me realize something horrifying. I had become the cover, her steady, her alibi, her background noise. And once I saw that, I couldn't unsee it. That night, Kara came home earlier than usual, brought takeout, Thai from the place I liked. She smiled. I thought we could eat on the couch. Like old times. We did. She even poured wine. I watched her laugh at a movie we'd already seen twice. Her hand touched mine briefly during a joke. Natural. Automatic. She looked like the woman I married. But I knew now that wasn't who was sitting next to me. I excused myself to the bathroom. In the mirror, I stared at my own face and asked the question I'd been avoiding. How do you respond to a lie told with love in the eyes? I didn't have an answer. But I was starting to understand that I wouldn't need one, because I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. I was going to let her finish writing the script she thought she controlled. And then, I'd rewrite the ending. I met Josh in his car this time. Neutral ground. Empty parking garage. He handed me a small black recorder and a printed transcript. I didn't bug her directly, he said. It's ambient. Picked it up from the hallway outside the apartment. Thin walls. Neighbors talk. So do liars. He said it like a man who's heard too much. I didn't ask what it cost him to get the file. I just hit play. The voices were muffled at first, casual, light. Then hers. I wanted to be clean. Public. I want him to understand it's over, without giving him room to beg or manipulate. Tyler, so you'll give him the papers that night? Kara, yes. During his birthday dinner. I'll hand it to him with a toast. It'll look like a gift. No screaming. No drama. He laughed. Savage. She joined him. He deserves that much, at least. And once it's done, I want half. The house, the accounts, I earned this. My hands tightened around the recorder, but I didn't stop it. Tyler again. And if he pushes back? Kara, he won't. He never does. He just absorbs things. Quietly. He'll probably even thank me. Silence. Then Tyler, softer. You sure you're ready? Kara, I've been ready. I'm just waiting for the right moment to finish the act. I paused the audio. Let the silence stretch. Josh didn't speak. I didn't either. Not for a while. Because it wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't betrayal. It was clarity. They weren't improvising. They were directing. I was the only one in the cast who hadn't seen the script. Until now. I assume. I finally said, you recorded this recently? 2 nights ago. Good. I nodded. That gives me time. Josh raised an eyebrow. Time for what? I smiled, small, cold, controlled. For rehearsal. He looked at me for a long beat. You want me to keep watching? No, I said. Let her believe I'm still in the dark. I want her to feel completely in control. Josh hesitated. You're sure? I nodded. Because something had shifted again, but this time, it was in me. I wasn't the quiet husband anymore. I was the author now. Let her walk me to the stage. Let her pass the spotlight my way. Let her believe I'd stand there and take it. Because when she hands me that envelope, I'll already have mine waiting. I didn't confront her. I didn't throw the recorder across the room or demand answers. I didn't rage or accuse. That would have handed her exactly what she wanted, a reason to paint me as unstable. Instead, I became agreeable. Even charming. I started responding to her absence with gratitude. Thanks for letting me know. I'd say when she texted she was sleeping at Jenna's. No problem. Take all the time you need. Kara seemed pleased. She thought I was adjusting, surrendering. She had no idea I was documenting every hour she disappeared. Every line she crossed. I met with a lawyer, quiet man, clean desk, sharp eyes. I told him what I'd gathered, what I suspected, and what I planned to do. He didn't blink. Just asked for the files. I gave him everything. Audio, dates, financial logs. He read through the case for nearly an hour, then leaned back in his chair. She won't expect this. Especially if you don't flinch. I didn't plan to. Next came the paperwork. Quiet filings. No announcements. No emails traced to my account. Everything went through my lawyer's office. The house was reclassified under premarital inheritance, which was true. It had been left to me by my uncle years ago, before I even met Kara. We never merged the title, and I'd paid off the mortgage alone. She never cared before. But now? Now she thought it was half hers. Not anymore. Within days, we had everything in motion, a full counterpetition, with attached evidence and witness statements, ready to be served at my discretion. My discretion. Those two words tasted better than I expected. Kara, meanwhile, played her role with precision. She suggested we throw a small gathering for my birthday. Just something elegant, she said. Friends, good food, a night to remember. I smiled. Told her that sounded wonderful. She lit up. Mistook my approval for submission. It'll be a fresh start for both of us, she added, almost too casually. I knew what she meant. She'd hand me the divorce papers that night. Dressed as a gift. A clean break with witnesses. A final scene she could control. What she didn't know was that the second act wasn't hers. I'd already cast the final moment, and I wouldn't need to raise my voice to steal the show. The week before the party, I rehearsed my smile. My posture. The way I'd hold the glass. How I'd look at her when she did it calm, unreadable. Not broken. Not angry. Just finished. I called Josh and gave him one instruction. I'll text you one word. You'll know what it means. Wait near the house. We're something neutral. He didn't ask for details. He just said, understood. That's the thing about working with professionals. They don't need drama. They only need timing. And timing was everything. Kara kept talking about the party like it was a gift to me. I've picked out the wine you like, she said. And the caterer is doing those rosemary rolls you love. I thanked her. Kissed her cheek. She didn't notice that when I touched her shoulder, it was measured. That my kindness had weight. Everything I did now was calibrated, not out of love, but because performance required consistency. And I was no longer living this marriage. I was acting in its final scene. She thought I was the fool. But fools don't draft counterfilings and reassign real estate. Fools don't hire lawyers and private investigators and wait in silence. Fools react. I was doing none of that. I was building. Quietly. Structurally. Permanently. And as I watched her smile while she arranged the guest list, I realized she wasn't ready for what happens when a quiet man gets loud, without ever raising his voice. The morning of the party, Kara was already up before I was. She moved through the kitchen like a conductor, arranging wine bottles, lighting scented candles, triple-checking the oven temperature. She wore a pale green dress I hadn't seen in months, and that same effortless smile that once looked natural, but now felt rehearsed. Don't lift a finger today, she said, brushing flour from her hands. This is your day. I nodded and poured myself coffee. She hummed while arranging the napkins. I watched her move, so calm, so choreographed. It struck me then how far she'd come in perfecting the illusion. If I didn't know what I knew, I'd almost admire her. By noon, the house looked like a magazine layout. Flowers and vases. Jazz playing softly. A catered spread with personalized place cards. It was everything she loved, curated, controlled, symmetrical. And at the center of it all, me. The unsuspecting birthday boy. Guests arrived in waves. Neighbors. Old college friends. Her coworkers. Laughter filled the rooms. Everyone complimented Kara. You really outdid yourself, they said. What a perfect evening. She blushed with pride, as though their praise confirmed everything she wanted this night to mean. I played my part well. I smiled, thanked people, made small talk. No one could tell I was counting every minute. No one noticed how tightly I held my glass. Then I saw him. Tyler. He walked in like he belonged. Casual shirt, blazer, smirk already in place. He greeted Kara first. Hugged her. Too long, too familiar. She didn't flinch. Didn't look around. Just smiled and whispered something close to his ear. Then she turned and waved at me. Tyler. I said, matching his energy. Long time. He offered a handshake. I took it. Still with marketing? I asked. He shrugged. Freelancing a bit. Taking time for personal things. Sounds flexible. Yeah, he said, flashing that same easy grin. Life's too short to stay boxed in, right? I nodded slowly. Exactly. And then I walked away. Because I didn't need to say anything. Not yet. The script still had a few pages left. Dinner was served around 7. People gathered in the backyard under hanging lights. Kara gave a short toast, thanking everyone for coming. She clinked her glass against mine. To new chapters, she said. To honesty, I replied. Her smile twitched, not enough for others to see. But I saw it. Plates were cleared. Dessert served. And then, it began. Kara stood again. She tapped her fork gently against her glass. The room quieted. I just want to say how proud I am of this night, she said, voice smooth, eyes bright. And how much I've cherished everything we've built together. People smiled. A few nodded. She reached behind her chair and pulled out a red envelope. And because tonight is about beginnings as much as it is about endings, she continued, I want to be honest. She turned to me. I think we both know we've outgrown this. And so, she placed the envelope in front of me. I'm giving us both the freedom we deserve. Whispers spread. Someone gasped softly. Kara kept smiling. I hope there's no bitterness. I hope we can part with dignity. But it's time. And then for a moment, she looked smug. Like she'd just completed the perfect monologue. Like the curtains were about to fall, and the audience would clap for her bravery. I looked down at the envelope, then back at her. And I smiled. Because I knew the final act hadn't even started yet. For a moment, no one moved. I looked at the red envelope on the table in front of me. Kara stood with both hands on the back of her chair, her smile frozen in that dangerous space between pride and pity. Around us, the guests exchanged glances, unsure whether to laugh, clap, or vanish. It wasn't the kind of moment you expect at a birthday party. But that was the point. Kara's voice broke the silence again. You've always been reliable, she said, drawing out the word like it was an insult wrapped in silk. Stable. Safe. But sometimes safe isn't enough. Sometimes, people need something more. She tilted her head, as if comforting me. I felt eyes on me, curious, uncomfortable. No one reached for a glass or a phone. They were frozen, too. A woman to Kara's left, I didn't even know her name, murmured, Is this real? Kara laughed. Oh, it's real. We've talked about this. Quietly, privately. But now, we're just making it formal. She turned to me, voice softening just enough to sound gracious. There's no need to be angry, Matt. We've just reached the end of the road. I want us both to move on with dignity. I didn't touch the envelope. Not yet. Instead, I asked, So this was your plan all along? Kara's smile widened. It was a plan built on honesty. On growth. Her tone shifted just slightly. I mean, let's face it, Matt. You've been coasting. Emotionally. Professionally. And I got tired of waiting for you to catch up. Now it was personal. Tyler and I, she stopped, just enough to imply without saying it. We're aligned. We share goals. Drive. I want more for myself. And frankly, I deserve it. Tyler shifted in his seat across from us, clearly trying to remain invisible. I caught his glance for a second. The confident smile was gone. Kara stepped forward and tapped the envelope again. We'll settle everything in court. I'm not here to fight. I just want what's fair. Half of everything. That's reasonable, don't you think? I smiled. Finally. And said, You're right. Fairness matters. She blinked, caught off guard. I slowly reached into my pocket. Pulled out my phone. Unlocked it. One message. One word. Send. 30 seconds passed. Then, a knock at the front door. Everyone turned. Kara frowned. Did we invite anyone else? I did, I said simply. I stood, pushed the chair back quietly, walked to the door and opened it. There stood a man in a tan jacket, holding a slim box and an envelope. Neutral. Professional. Delivery, he said calmly. For whom? Kara asked, already uneasy. For Mrs. Kara Bennett. She looked stunned. What? I took the box from him and placed it on the table. This, I said, is your version of honesty. She opened the lid slowly. Inside, a printed legal packet. Divorce filing. Not hers, mine. Filed first. Supported by documentation, bank transfers, hotel receipts, audio transcripts, GPS logs, and a notarized statement from Jenna confirming Kara hadn't seen her in over a month. Kara's hand shook as she flipped through the pages. The room was silent again, and I finally spoke. You want court? You'll have it, but not on your terms. This house? It's not half yours. Never was. Paid off before we married, held solely in my name, and now legally protected. Her face paled. I continued, You lied. You planned. You used me as a prop in your little escape act. But I don't play the fool. Not anymore. Tyler stood up. I didn't know he had evidence. I cut in. Of course you didn't. You're not very good at looking past yourself. He turned toward the door. Going somewhere? I asked. But he didn't answer. He just slipped out like a shadow as Kara's world folded in. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't rush. There was no need. Kara stood frozen, the open folder still in her hands, pages trembling slightly as her fingers tried to steady them. Her face had drained of color. Her perfect posture sagged just a bit, just enough for the people around the table to finally see the crack in the performance. I looked out over the guests. Some stared at their plates. Others exchanged glances, silent agreements not to speak. One man cleared his throat and quietly stepped outside. No one else moved. I turned back to Kara. You said you wanted fairness, that we should move on with dignity. But what you really meant was, you expected to humiliate me quietly while taking everything you believed you were owed. She didn't respond. She couldn't. I'll let you believe that, I continued, because it gave me time to protect what's mine, to document what you thought you could hide. You weren't just unfaithful, you were methodical, calculated. You forged a life with someone else while using my name, my resources, my reputation as your cover. Another whisper passed through the room. Kara's fingers tightened around the folder. I don't need anyone here to judge you, I said, glancing at the guests. That's not why I did this publicly. I did it because you made it public first. You turned my birthday into your stage, thinking I'd collapse under the spotlight. But Kara, I took a breath, steady and deep. You always underestimated what silence can build. She opened her mouth, finally. But no words came. Her eyes flicked toward the door, the same door Tyler had walked through just minutes ago, and never returned from. She was alone now, and everyone could see it. You spent months planning this moment, I said, believing you were the only one writing the script. But you forgot. I was watching. I was listening. And when the time came, I made a plan too. Kara's voice was a whisper. You blindsided me. I nodded. Exactly. That's what you were hoping to do to me. Now you understand how it feels. She took a step forward, as if to explain, to recover something. But I raised a hand, just enough to stop her. There's nothing to discuss, I said evenly. The documents speak for themselves. The court has everything it needs. The house, the accounts, the timing, it's all settled. I turned toward the others, then back to her. One final thing. The room fell into a silence so heavy it felt like gravity had shifted. I looked Kara straight in the eye. You have 7 days to leave my house, I said quietly. If you don't, your things will be waiting in the trash. And that was it. No more speeches. No shouting. Just that. I stepped away from the table and toward the door. Behind me, no one clapped. No one moved. Just the sound of one woman realizing that for the first time, she couldn't control what came next. And that silence? It was the loudest ending I could have given her.